Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're uncovering the mystery behind a coin that looks simple, innocent, almost ordinary, yet holds one of the most important stories in American numismatic history. I'm talking about the 2009 Lincoln 1-cent birth and early childhood penny, the first design released to honor the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This penny isn't just copper and zinc. It's a visual time machine transporting us back to a tiny log cabin in Kentucky, where one of the greatest American leaders began his journey. The reverse design shows a young Lincoln's early frontier life, a symbol of struggle, growth, and humble beginnings. And because 2009 was the only year the mint ever issued 4 different penny designs, each version carries a unique identity. But this particular one, the birth and early childhood design, quickly became a favorite among collectors. Now let me tell you why coin lovers hold on to this piece like gold. First, even though millions were minted, most were tossed into circulation, picked up in change, scratched, nicked and worn down. But a small fraction survived in pristine, untouched, mint-fresh condition. Those are the treasures people hunt for, the ones with flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and that rich original luster. And here's where things get even more exciting. Error varieties. These are the true wild cards of coin collecting. A doubled image, a misaligned die, an off-center strike, a weakly struck cabin, or even unusual minting pressure can make a regular penny suddenly become a collectible superstar. Some collectors have reported finding coins with die cracks, extra metal, or faint doubling on letters, and when these rare slips of the mint are preserved in high grades, their value can skyrocket. So what's the real-world money value? Let's talk numbers clearly. A 2009 birth and early childhood penny in normal circulated condition is generally worth 1 cent, nothing special. But in bright, uncirculated mint state, collectors have valued these coins from a few dollars all the way into the tens. Special satin finish versions and proof strikes can reach into the hundreds. And the rarest, high-grade examples with errors have sold at auction for amounts reaching into the thousands of dollars. Yes, a little 1-cent coin with a little log cabin can bring in a serious amount of money when the right conditions align. So if you have a 2009 penny at home, check it closely. Look for sharp details, bright shine, no scratches, and especially any strange or unusual marks that could be mint errors. Your pocket change could be far more interesting than it seems. Top 2. We go on a journey through time, all the way back to 1980, to unearth something that may lie quietly in your pocket, coin jar, or old wallet, the 1980 U.S. Lincoln 1-cent penny. It's a piece of metal that many dismiss as everyday small change, but when you look closer, when you treat it with a collector's eye, suddenly it becomes full of stories, possibilities, maybe even treasure. Think about this. The 1980 penny carries the classic design that so many have touched. On the front, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln looking forward. On the back, the wheat ears that once framed the value of the coin, a design style lost after later decades. For many coin lovers, that design evokes nostalgia, a reminder of simpler days, heavier copper coins, and the tangible feel of money you could hold and examine. Most 1980 pennies you find in change today have traveled far. They've passed through hundreds of pockets, changed hands numerous times. They may be scratched, dull, the once bright copper tone long since faded. If that's what you have, grab it, spend it, it's still basically a penny. For everyday use, that's all it's good for. But spare a second look. Maybe, just maybe, there's something more there, because every coin has a story, and the coins that survive decades untouched are the silent survivors. Imagine a 1980 penny tucked away safely in a bank roll, or carefully stored in a coin album, never slid into a vending machine, never rubbed across a pocket seam. Its surface remains crisp, its details sharp, the rims unscuffed, the color rich with original copper. That penny is not just change. It's a snapshot of time. For collectors, condition matters. A bright, mint-state 1980 penny, one where the wheat stalks stand crisp and deep, where the date reads clean and sharp, where no sign of wear dulls the luster, becomes more than a memory. It becomes a collectible. In the modern collector's market, such coins often fetch a few dollars. That's already more than face value, but sometimes coins reach higher. What really draws the attention of numismatists, the dedicated coin collectors, are imperfections born at the mint. Mint errors are like unplanned signatures from the minting process, each one unique. Think of coins struck slightly off-center, so part of the design is cut off. Or coins where letters are faintly doubled. Or maybe coins with weak rims or die cracks that left tiny raised lines across the surface. These mistakes are rare. They break the uniformity. They make a coin one of a kind. If a 1980 penny shows such oddities, and is also in great shape, that's when the magic happens. Suddenly you could be holding something that serious collectors might fight to own. Some error pennies from 1980 have found new homes in collections, traded or sold for dozens of dollars, even more, depending on how significant the error is and how pristine the coin remains. So if you've got a handful of 1980 pennies lying around at home, take a moment. Lay them out under a good light. Look at the date, the details, the edges, the wheat stalks on the back. Can you see crisp edges, deep lines, maybe even a weird mark or misstrike? Give each coin a careful glance, treat it like a small artifact from the past. One coin among that stack might quietly hold value far beyond what you think. Maybe it's not a treasure worth thousands. But maybe it's a small surprise, a few dollars, a point of pride, a story to tell. And for some, the coin lover, the collector, the dreamer, that's enough. Top 3, we're taking a deep dive into a humble little coin that's been hiding in plain sight, the 1975 U.S. Lincoln 1-cent penny. On the surface, it may look ordinary, small, copper-toned, familiar. But for collectors and history lovers, this coin carries decades of history, and possibly hidden value. Picture this: over 40 years ago, someone dropped this penny into a jar, a drawer, or maybe lost it between cushions. Perhaps it changed hands countless times, traveled across cities, or remained tucked safely away. Whichever path it followed, that coin is a snapshot of a moment in time, the mid-1970s in America, when pennies were still heavy with copper, still familiar and tangible. Most 1975 pennies you find today have been circulated. They show signs of wear, edges smoothed, details softened, the copper tone dulled or darkened, a journey traveled through everyday transactions. In those cases, the penny is essentially what it says: 1 cent. For everyday use, it may buy you a small candy or add to a tip jar, but what if you held a 1975 penny that avoided circulation? Imagine one that stayed sealed in a roll, or carefully stored in a coin album, untouched by hands or air or wear. Its rim crisp, the lettering sharp, the fields clean, that coin becomes more than pocket change. It becomes a piece of preserved history. Coins in such mint condition are what collectors love to hunt, and then there are the surprises, the minting errors that transformed simple pennies into rare collectibles. A 1975 penny could show a lightly misaligned strike, faint doubling on letters or date, a weak rim, or even a subtle die crack. Such errors are rare, often unnoticed by anyone but a careful eye, and that's exactly what makes them special. For a coin lover, discovering an error penny is like finding a hidden gem. If you own a 1975 penny that retains bright copper tone, strong detail, smooth rims, and perhaps even a faint mint flaw, hold on to it. Because coins like that, especially with unusual mint characteristics, have a story to tell, and collectors are interested. In today's market, a well-preserved 1975 penny in mint state can fetch a few dollars. When you factor in a clean strike, excellent condition, and a minted error attribute, some examples have been sold at auction for significantly more, sometimes for tens of dollars, occasionally more, depending on the rarity and demand. So if you ever dig through your coin jar or find a handful of old pennies, take a moment. Lay them out under good light. Check the dates, inspect the fields, see if the rims are sharp, the lettering crisp. One of those ordinary-looking coins might turn out to be a small treasure. If you enjoyed this little coin exploration, If you love stories hidden in everyday change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next coin hunt, and leave a comment telling me what coin you want to examine next. Top 4. We're going back to a time long before the internet, long before smartphones, long before modern coins lost their copper shine. We're traveling all the way to the year 1963, a time when pennies were heavier, richer in color, and full of life. And somewhere out there, maybe in your pocket or hidden in an old drawer, lies a 1963 Lincoln penny that might be worth more than you think. This little coin has been through over 60 years of American history. Imagine how many hands it may have passed through, how many stories it silently witnessed. Or imagine the opposite. Maybe yours is one of the rare survivors that never circulated, that sat undisturbed in an envelope, roll, or a collection, its shine untouched, its details crisp as the day it was minted. The 1963 Lincoln penny belongs to the classic copper era. For collectors, this alone makes it special. These coins were minted before modern changes, before reductions in copper content, before redesigns, before the world of coins changed. Holding a 1963 penny feels like holding a piece of mid-century America, a time capsule you can fit between your fingers. Most 1963 pennies people find today are worn. They've taken decades of circulation, they show scratches, dullness, and loss of fine detail. Those are common, familiar, and usually worth just 1 cent. But what collectors really look for are the survivors, coins with full luster, razor-sharp lettering, defined rims, and rich copper glow. These gems are the ones that catch a collector's eye instantly, turning a simple penny into something worth keeping. And then comes the part collectors love most: mint errors. When a 1963 penny carries a mistake from the mint, everything changes. Maybe the letters show doubling. Maybe the strike is slightly off-center. Maybe the rim looks uneven. Maybe a die crack runs across the coin like a tiny lightning bolt. Or maybe the coin was struck on the wrong planchet, making it incredibly rare. These errors, though sometimes barely noticeable, can transform a tiny coin into a valuable collectible. Even subtle variations, like unusually strong strikes, deep details, or original red copper surfaces, can make one coin stand out dramatically from the millions minted that year. That's why coin lovers inspect 1963 pennies with the same care as jewelers studying gems. One small error, one preserved luster, one rare variation, and suddenly, a coin becomes a treasure. So if you ever find a 1963 penny in your home, hold it to the light. Look closely. Check the date, examine the lettering, watch for shine and sharpness, turn it over slowly. What you discover could surprise you. Some of these pennies, especially those in mint condition or with unique error features, are worth far more than pocket change. Now for the real-world value. A common circulated 1963 penny is generally worth 1 cent. A clean, uncirculated example can be worth a few dollars. And certain rare error coins and high-grade specimens have sold at auctions for amounts in the tens of dollars. Top 5. We're stepping back into the early 70s, a time of changing music, changing culture, and classic American coins that carried real copper and real history. And somewhere in your pocket, your coin jar, or maybe in a forgotten drawer in your home, there might be a little treasure from that era, the 1971 United States Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary old penny. But trust me, this coin has stories, rarity, and secrets that collectors absolutely love. The 1971 penny comes from a unique period. These coins were minted before major changes in the cent's metal composition, before modern minting shortcuts, before the lightweight zinc pennies we see today. When you hold a 1971 cent, you're holding a piece of solid copper history, richer in tone, heavier in hand, and far more iconic to collectors. Most of the 1971 pennies that people find today have lived hard lives. They've been spent thousands of times, scraped across tables, rubbed in pockets, washed in laundry machines, dropped on sidewalks. That wear is part of their story, but it also makes them common. A heavily circulated 1971 penny usually isn't rare or valuable. But that's only half the story. because the real treasures are the 1971 pennies that survived untouched. The ones that stayed sealed in rolls. The ones that remained stored in collections. The ones whose sharp edges are still crisp, whose letters still shine, whose copper glow hasn't faded with time. These coins, with their original mint luster, immediately catch a collector's eye, and their value grows significantly because only a small fraction of the millions minted survived in such beautiful condition. But things get even more exciting when we talk about errors. And the year 1971 is famous for them, especially the double die obverse. Some 1971 pennies show doubling in the date, doubling in the lettering, and sometimes doubling across the entire front image. These errors were caused by misalignment in the die during minting, tiny mistakes that created rare varieties collectors now hunt for. A strong double die penny from 1971 can be worth far more than just a cent. There are other errors too: off-center strikes with missing design sections, die cracks resembling lightning lines across the surface, weak strikes lacking detail, and planchet errors where the metal wasn't perfectly formed. All of these can turn a simple copper penny into a fascinating collectible. So if you have a 1971 penny at home, take a closer look. Hold it under a bright light. Tilt it slowly. Look at the lettering, the date, the rim. Search for that magical doubling or that unusual flaw. And above all, check the shine. A bright, clean, nearly perfect copper penny could be worth much more than you expect. Here is the real-world value. A normal circulated 1971 penny is usually worth 1 cent. A clean uncirculated example may be worth a few dollars. And rare double die or high-grade specimens have sold at auction for tens of dollars. Top 6. We're taking a journey back more than 40 years, all the way to 1979, to explore a coin that many of us may have held in our hands without even realizing its story, its history, or even its potential value. I'm talking about the 1979 United States Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that seems ordinary, almost invisible in everyday life, but for collectors, numismatists, and history lovers, it's a small treasure packed with intrigue, rare varieties, and sometimes even real monetary worth. The 1979 Lincoln penny comes from a fascinating period in the history of American coinage. These pennies were minted before significant changes in production methods and composition occurred in later decades. They still carried the rich copper tone that makes classic pennies so appealing. Holding one of these coins today is like holding a tangible piece of 1970s America, the era of vinyl records, big hair, classic cars, and neon lights. It's a connection to the past that's small, unassuming, yet full of character. Most 1979 pennies you encounter today have been through circulation. They show the wear of decades, faded surfaces, softening of the details, worn rims, scratches, and sometimes a darkened patina from years of handling. In most cases, these circulated pennies are worth exactly what the face says, 1 cent. But appearances can be deceiving, because hidden among the millions minted that year are pennies that avoided the harsh realities of circulation, coins that remained in rolls, tucked safely in coin collections, or carefully stored by someone who appreciated their potential value. When we talk about coins that survived in excellent condition, we're talking about pieces that still have bright copper surfaces, razor-sharp details, crisp rims, and original luster. These are the coins that catch a collector's eye immediately, because they represent a moment frozen in time. A 1979 penny in mint condition is more than just a coin. It's a tiny artifact, a collectible, a story of preservation that survived decades when most coins were spent, lost, or worn down. But the real excitement for collectors comes from minting errors, the little accidents that occur at the mint that transform an ordinary penny into something rare and highly desirable. The 1979 Lincoln penny is known for several interesting varieties and errors. Some coins show a double die effect on the obverse, where letters or the date appear slightly duplicated. Others might have off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, creating a unique pattern. Some pennies show die cracks, faint raised lines running across the surface of the coin, or planchet flaws, small imperfections in the metal before it struck. These errors are rare, and each one is unique, making them highly prized by collectors. imagine holding a 1979 penny where the date appears doubled, or the letters of Liberty are slightly shifted or faintly replicated. Or imagine discovering a penny with a small off-center strike, creating an unusual and eye-catching pattern. These are the kinds of coins that can turn casual collectors into passionate enthusiasts, because they combine historical significance with rarity. Coins like these tell a story that goes beyond mere face value. They are tangible proof of the minting process, a peek behind the curtain at how coins are made and sometimes, how they can surprise you. So, what should you do if you have a handful of 1979 pennies lying around? First, take your time. Lay them out on a flat surface under good lighting. Examine the rims, the date, the lettering, and the Lincoln profile carefully. Look for brightness and sharpness in the details. Check for anything unusual, faint doubling, strange lines, misaligned designs, or anything that looks different from the ordinary pennies in your collection. Even subtle differences can indicate an error coin or a high-grade specimen, which could be worth considerably more than face value. Now let's talk about the real-world value of these pennies. A standard circulated 1979 Lincoln penny is usually worth 1 cent, practically what it cost when it was minted. But a clean, uncirculated example, one with crisp details and original copper luster, can be worth a few dollars. And the rarer mint-era pennies, particularly those with strong double dies, off-center strikes, or other unusual features, have been sold at auctions for amounts reaching into the tens of dollars, sometimes even more depending on rarity and collector demand. If you enjoy exploring hidden stories in everyday objects, like coins that have survived decades and may even hold real value, then this is exactly the kind of content you'll love. The 1979 Lincoln penny might seem like a small, ordinary coin, but when you look closely, it opens a window into history, craftsmanship, and the passion of coin collectors who spend hours hunting for these rare varieties. Top 7, and last rare coin, we're diving into a coin that might be hiding quietly in your pocket, coin jar, or perhaps tucked away in an old box. It's small, copper-colored, and often overlooked, but for collectors and history enthusiasts, it's a tiny treasure with a story to tell. I'm talking about the 1978 United States Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like ordinary change, something we've all seen and touched hundreds of times. But if you take a closer look, you'll find that this humble penny is a fascinating piece of history with rare varieties, errors, and even potential value. The 1978 penny comes from an interesting period in American coinage. Pennies were still made primarily of copper, giving them that rich, warm tone that collectors love. This was before modern changes in composition and minting methods made pennies lighter and less colorful. Holding a 1978 penny is like holding a small slice of the late 1970s, a time of classic cars, vinyl records, bell-bottom pants, and iconic pop culture moments. For anyone who loves coins, it's a connection to the past, tangible in your hand, and full of character. Most 1978 pennies you'll find today have seen decades of circulation. They show signs of wear, dulled surfaces, softening details, worn rims, and scratches from everyday life. These circulated coins are common and typically worth only 1 cent. But hidden among them are coins that survived the years untouched. These are the coins that were stored carefully in rolls, albums, or safes, coins that retain their original luster, sharp details, and crisp edges. These are the coins collectors immediately notice because they stand out from the millions of worn pennies. The real excitement comes when we talk about rare errors and varieties. The 1978 Lincoln penny is known for several interesting minting quirks that can make it valuable to collectors. Some coins were struck slightly off-center, where part of the design appears missing or shifted. Others show double die features, with letters or numbers faintly duplicated or blurred. There are also coins with weak strikes, die cracks, or planchet flaws, each giving the penny a one-of-a-kind appearance. These errors are the magic that turns an ordinary coin into a collectible, because each mistake is unique and tells a story about the minting process. Imagine discovering a 1978 penny with the date or the word Liberty doubled, faintly but clearly visible under magnification. Or spotting a coin where the design is slightly off-center, giving it a quirky and unusual look. Even subtle die cracks that appear like tiny lightning bolts across the surface can make a penny highly sought after. Collectors love these varieties because they are rare, visually interesting, and often command higher prices than ordinary circulated coins. So, how can you check your 1978 pennies for value? First, take your time. Lay them out under bright light and examine the date, the lettering, the Lincoln profile, and the rims. Look for bright, original copper surfaces. Notice if any letters, numbers, or designs appear doubled or off-center. Check for unusual lines or raised marks that could indicate a die crack or planchet flaw. Even subtle differences can make a penny a hidden gem. When it comes to real-world value, a common circulated 1978 penny is worth 1 cent. A bright, uncirculated example in excellent condition can be worth a few dollars. And rare mint-era pennies, like those with strong double dies, off-center strikes, or other unique characteristics, have been sold at auction for amounts reaching into the tens of dollars, sometimes more depending on rarity and collector demand. The 1978 Lincoln penny is more than just metal, it's a piece of history, a collectible, and for some, a tiny treasure. Its story is one of survival, preservation, and sometimes serendipity. Every penny tells a tale, and the ones that have survived decades with rare features are like hidden time capsules. If you enjoyed exploring the fascinating world of the 1978 Lincoln penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more hidden treasure coin stories, and leave a comment telling me which coin you want to explore next. Thanks for watching, and may your next penny surprise you with more value than you ever imagined.